Dobro vam večer, poštovani gledalci. Dobrodošli u emisiju 7+. Moja večerašnja gošća je profesorica na Kolumbija univerzitetu i bivša glasnogovornica misije OSCE-a u Bosni i Hercegovini, TANYA DOMI. Ona je iskazani i dokazani prijatelj Bosne i Hercegovine. Dobro vam večer i dobrodošli na Hayat televiziju.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
Također, profesorice, vi niste prvi put u Bosni i Hercegovini, bili ste i ranije. Rado viđen ste gost u Sarajevu. Kako se vi osjećate ovdje?
This is the second time this year I'm here. I always come back. I always drink the water to make sure I come back. I have many friends. I have many reunions planned this weekend. So I'm happy to be here.
I naše je zadovoljstvo imati vas kao prijatelja Bosne i Hercegovine. Posljednji podaci Centra za analizu evropske politike pokazuju da je Bosna i Hercegovina i dalje duboko podijeljena zemlja i evo gotovo 30 godina nakon rata došli smo u situaciju kada je politička situacija, kriza nekako proključala ponovo. Vi ste dobar poznavalac prilika u Bosni i Hercegovini. Kako biste vi ocijenili trenutnu političku situaciju?
It's very troubling to hear about this and hear about the reporting on it. However, I'm not surprised that these were the conclusions from the analyses. And I would add that it is a war by other means. It's a cold peace. At times it becomes hot, and in other times it's just frozen. It seems stuck in time. And I hold, the leaders of the country for this situation. I hold them responsible, but I also think the international community has not engaged in an effective way, including my own government, the United States. And I would add, I think in partnership with the EU, they've just not held Bosnia to the Dayton standards, and I'm including the Office of the High Representative as well.
Živimo u državi u kojoj se i 30 godina nakon rata veličaju ratni zločinci, pa sada imamo situaciju da se u manjem bosansko-hercegovačkom entitetu promijenio obrazovni plan i program, tako će učenici 9. razreda osnovnih škola učiti o ratnim zločincima kao o herojima. Koji je vaš stav o tome? Mislite li da je to porazno?
I think it's absolutely shameful. Absolutely shameful that children are being taught that war criminals are great heroes. And it's gaslighting the public in a way and mocking the future of the country, because they're poisoning the minds of young children and shaping them in a way that is perverse. And I would add, in education, this is where citizenship begins. This is where the ideals of the country, if we look back during the Yugoslav period, it was brotherhood and unity and everyone together. That was enshrined in Tito's Yugoslavia. But in this state, in the state of the politics now, more than 30 years, almost 30 years after the war, it's a frozen peace, and it's also, there's an ongoing effort to undermine the sovereignty of Bosnia and Herzegovina repeatedly by Mr. Dodik as one example, but certainly others, including Mr. Čović, nationalists, including Zagreb and Belgrade, undermining Bosnia's sovereignty over and over and over.
U isto vrijeme, profesorice, u knjigama historije u entitetu RS nema lekcija o genocidu, o okupiranom Sarajevu, o zločinima koji su se dogodili u Goraždu. Kakva je to u konačnici poruka za žrtve?
I think what the Republika Srpska has done in the case of this curriculum for children is not only devastating, it is an absolute failure of leadership, not only by officials in the RS, but also by the international community, i.e., Christian Schmidt has a responsibility here to implement all the civilian aspects of Dayton. And I'm old enough, having come here in 1996, when the Office of the High Representative had the educational portfolio. And it was the responsibility of the High Representative to implement the curriculum and restart schools all across the country. And the United States of America at that time wanted the portfolio, but France got it. But the United States said, okay, France has it, but we want to warn the leaders of the country. If you segregate the classrooms, we will pull every US dollar out of this country. We will walk away if you do that. Because America lived through segregated classrooms, and it was overturned in 1954, the year I was born. So all I want to say is I remember that very distinctly, and that was when the Office of the High Representative mattered, carried out its work efficiently and effectively, and the same cannot be said of the current High Representative. And let me add furthermore that the High Representative, as a citizen of Germany, should be ashamed, because Konrad Adenauer, the post-war leader of Germany, led it into the 20th century, into the 20th century rather, becoming the richest, strongest country in Europe. And it took them 40 years to settle on history books. And Christian Schmidt has a responsibility to implement all the civilian aspects of Dayton. And not only was his reaction to the decision saying, oh, well, the crimes, the laws have been violated, and the trust has been undermined within this curriculum application. And not only is that weak, that is simply insufficient, because we're talking about the future of the country. We're talking about building values and teaching the truth.
Iz OHR-a su kazali da oni koji smatraju da se nastavni planovi i programi sprovode u suprotnosti sa zakonima koje mi trenutno imamo u državi, da to pitanje pokrenu pred pravosudnim institucijama. Opet iz tužilaštva Bosne i Hercegovine tvrde da oni nemaju nadležnosti za intervencije ovoga tipa. Kako vi tumačite to njihovo objašnjenje? Da li bježe od odgovornosti?
Well, I do believe he has mechanisms. That office is responsible, but they're choosing not to use them. They've moved away from nullifying laws, striking laws down, removing people from office. I remember when Mr. Poplashin was removed, for example. So all I want to say is that it's just insufficient, and the fact that Christian Schmidt fails on this point is really says something about him. He is German. Germany went through this process. Germany went through the process of post-war following a Nazi regime and finally coming to conclusion. It took 40 years, it took a long time, but they created one history book that everybody agreed to. And as everyone knows, depending on your ethnicity, you're getting a different story here about who did what during the war and who was responsible for war crimes. And the glorification of war criminals has been going on for a long time in this region. We've watched war criminals get released for example, go home to Zagreb and there are celebrations awaiting a war criminal who served his or her time. There's a term now in academia called triumphalism, and this is a phenomenon you're seeing happening all over the place, including in the United States of America. Mr. Trump loves to glorify the people who attacked the Capitol of the United States on January 6th, 2019, and he actually has said on the campaign stump in America that he will pardon all those people convicted on day one if he is reelected to the presidency. So it's not just Bosnia, it's not just Croatia, it's not just Serbia, it includes the United States, it includes, as a matter of fact, Mr. Putin. They're doing this too. They love to glorify the bad people versus the good people, and it's gaslighting in its worst form.
Bivši visoki predstavnik u Bosni i Hercegovini donio izmjene krivičnog zakona kojima je zabranjeno veličanje ratnih zločinaca i zabranjeno je negiranje genocida. Međutim, mi u Bosni i Hercegovini i danas svjedočimo svemu tome, odnosno nepoštivanju tih njegovih odluka.
I think it was appropriate to impose a genocide denial law because clearly the legislative bodies of Bosnia and Herzegovina were not going to do it. And in this case, the High Representative recognized that this was a growing problem. I would say that what's involved in imposing this law or prosecuting someone for genocide denial, it includes prosecutorial discretion. So the question is, do prosecutors believe in enforcing the law and upholding the law, and within their discretion, they can choose to bring a prosecution or they can shy away and decline to do so. And that is the catch here. And a lot of people don't think that this is going to happen very often. And I think that it's not only using the leverage of the law, but it's also inculcating values and principles that say that this is not only wrong, it's immoral, because so many people suffered at the hands of war criminals in this country. Many did not survive, many died, and their family members may be still alive. And this trauma that people experienced during the war is then evoked once again when war criminals engage or public officials engage in genocide denial. For example, Mr. Vučić calls it a terrible crime, but he won't use the G word as an example. So this is very sad when we're looking at next year as the 30th anniversary.
Odabirom ponuđenih opcija pogledajte nastavak ove priče ili odaberite novi video.